So how easy is it for you to trust? And what factors go into your evaluation of trustworthiness? It's not an easy topic, nor a comfortable one. And considering all the uncertainties we face in the world these days, trust may be one of the most topical and difficult themes we could be tackling. Lack of trust seems to be as infectious as the current pandemic. People don't trust our medical professionals and scientists. People certainly don't trust politicians or governmental institutions, nor the church, our justice system, educational professionals, much less our foreign adversaries. And let's face it, many individuals and institutions have earned that distrust. But even if the church seems unreliable, we do have scriptures whose stories illustrate and enrich our notions of trust, and they're great places to start. On the subject of trust this week, we hit the scriptural jackpot. Not only are all three scriptures extraordinary, but even the psalm ties together the overarching theme. Put your trust in the Lord, sings the psalmist. In Genesis, Joseph revealed himself to his brothers. He forgave their attempt to kill him, recognized that God was using him for the salvation of his people, and then he finally sent his brothers home with wealth and provisions to fetch his father Jacob and the others of their tribe and bring them to Egypt to survive the famine. Now imagine being Joseph's brothers, realizing that the brother they thought they had left for dead in a pit was now lord over Egypt, and that their fates were in his hands. They were at his mercy. They expected judgment and revenge. And Joseph had plenty of justification. But imagine trusting that someone you tried to destroy would be your salvation. And imagine Joseph trusting that God had been with him throughout his horrible ordeal, some of the darkest moments of his life. And trusting that his brothers could and should be forgiven, that God had in fact used him and his sufferings for the salvation of people who had betrayed him. Luke continues Jesus' famous teaching moment from last week with some of his toughest and most counterintuitive admonitions. Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, lend and expect nothing in return, judge not, condemn not, forgive, be forgiven. Really? Isn't that asking a bit much? And how do we trust that we won't be taken advantage of, look like chumps? These passages challenge us because God's ways are always so inscrutable and counter to our human values. To radically trust in the love of a generous God, we often have to give up our most cherished notions of the truth. Where we belong, who belongs with us, who's worthy and unworthy, and how we are to respond to threats and turn our expectations of the Lord and ourselves upside down and risk an entirely new approach to God and the world and life and death. And God says, fear not. I will be with you through it all. Trust me. It's a tall order. In his second letter to the Corinthians, right after arguing that the resurrection is essential to the Christian faith, Paul then disabused his audience of their simplistic and literalist conception of the resurrection and challenged them to embrace the mystery of resurrected life and the possibility that its exact form may vary from person to person, like different types of seeds yielding their own unique blooms. And in light of Paul's challenge to reconsider the meaning and the form of resurrection, can we trust that God and our faith enough to be open to the unexpected ways we might experience our resurrections here and now? Throughout Christian history, we've been bombarded with rigorous and rigid interpretations of many doctrines, some of which are not even biblically rooted. So we're left asking ourselves, without insisting there was a reanimated corpse, can Christianity survive, much less be seen as legitimate? Last week, Paul was arguing for a bodily resurrection. But this week he goes on to say that the bodily resurrection may not be what we think. Which is it? Now, I feel for those who struggle with ambiguity, it doesn't feel safe. I mean, we don't like to change our minds or admit that we don't know or that we've been mistaken or duped. It's one of the reasons that our world has become so polarized. I mean, humility is seen as weakness or lack of conviction. Grace is seen as ineffectual. And it seems that the only thing that many people trust is power, whether it's physical or political or spiritual or psychological. That's why Russia is poised on the Ukrainian border. That's why principled public servants are being censored by their own political parties. It's why so many who think they're pro-life feel the need to criminalize other people's desperate choices rather than address the factors that can minimize the perceived need for such tragic decisions. It's why some parents are so afraid that their children will grow up as independent thinkers that they seek to ban books and ideas and even acknowledge the relationships or histories of their neighbors that they wish that didn't exist in public school settings. Yes, it's hard having our trusted notions of salvation and our criteria for it called into question. Yes, it's hard having our traditions turned on their heads and being called to trust that God is at work, even when the form of it seems totally out of whack or contrary to what we've been told all our lives. And maybe our physical body won't resuscitate. Maybe the mystery of Jesus' resurrection can only be communicated metaphorically with incarnational language. But if it's so hard dealing with each other, it's even more difficult to grapple with evolving understandings of God and theology, sacraments, marriage, life, and sexuality. How can we trust in God when the world and the church seem like they're on such shaky ground? That's the core of our dilemma. We can't claim to trust God and then impose our will on others. In the midst of pessimism and fear, however, is when we need a deeper love affair with Jesus. In fact, for me, it's been when I've felt the most vulnerable that I've experienced my most acute need for that love. And it's been those moments when I've been at the end of my rope, when I've been forced to surrender to that love. Yes, we're in the middle of what's probably the most cynical and conflicted eras of our lifetimes. And many are disaffected, distrustful. And we have some of the deepest divisions and paranoid ideologies and levels of cynicism of any democracy in the world. And perhaps that's all the more reason to surrender to him. Like Joseph, we need to come to the point where we can say, God is using me. I am a part of God's plan for salvation, even if I don't yet understand how. And even though there are many people who are bewildered or angry at the church and may look on us with suspicion, it's understandable. Many Christians are feeding this atmosphere of anxiety and distrust and have acted more like fountains of hate, fear and hate. But that is all the more reason we need to heed our gospel's call. Love your enemies. Do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. Yes, it's hard to let go of traditional notions of justice and trust, that God is just active in our lives, not just ours, but also everyone else's. God can continue the redemptive process whether or not our agenda prevails in the next election, or whether or not we get the last word in an argument, or whether or not corporate criminals and corrupt politicians are punished with the same vigor as the poor or the addicted or marginalized, and whether or not we personally see the world, much less our nation, put right in our lifetimes. It is possible that all of us will see more division, conflict, and injustice throughout the future decades. But nevertheless, God is asking us to trust in the salvation and healing of the world, and that we are a part of it. And isn't Jesus offering us the perspective that perhaps God is most present, tangible, and effective when we do exactly the opposite of what society expects? When we've recklessly given away or risked too much, when we've audaciously trusted not that humans will respond responsibly, but that God will be with us, even without interest earned or principal repaid, without assurance that those we forgive will behave as we expect, without knowing whether loving our enemies will preempt the next mass shooting or world war or neo-Nazi rally or terrorist attack. Before we can trust that love overcomes death, we need to embrace that fact that God has given us resilient hearts that can love and be loved, and with love without condition. You see, when we trust in God, it's easier for us to love God's creation. Once we know that, perhaps we'll have fewer problems considering that resurrection and salvation may be different than what we expect, and begin to see the myriad resurrections at work around us. That is the trust we're called to, and that is the trust Christ has in us. Thanks be to God.